Hey everybody, and welcome back to the channel. Today you're checking out an updated Stamina Dragonknight PvP build. This is updated for the Wrathstone DLC, and this is the Deadly Viper build. If you're looking for a Dragonknight build that has tons and tons of dot pressure while also being really tanky and with great survivability, then I think this is going to be a good build for you to check out. As usual, we'll go over the stats, the gear sets, the skills, champion points, and more coming up next. All right, let's jump into the stats really quick on the build. Quick disclaimer, as usual, I'm not completely min-maxed on the build yet. Your stats can always increase with things like max level Undaunted passives, gold gear and gold glyphs and all that kind of stuff. But this will be kind of a baseline for the setup that we're doing today. So we've got 10k max magicka, about 18k max health, that'll be like 20, 21k in PvP, 32k max stamina. Our recoveries actually go up with the potion that we're using, which is the Tri-Stat potion, so that'll be about 1500 stamina recovery, 1000 health recovery, and 650 mag recovery. Our max weapon damage does go up with Rally, which we have on the back bar, sitting at about 3300 weapon damage, and then we do have an infused Berserker glyph on the back bar as well, so sitting close to 4k weapon damage. Once you're fully buffed there, weapon crit is solid at 55%, and then for our resistances, those do go up with our armor buff. About 25,000 spell resistance, 22,000 physical resistance, and a little over 2k crit resist. Don't have quite the best traits, so that could be improved a little bit as well. Put all our points into max stamina here on the build. For your Mundus, couple recommendations. I would pick the Warrior Mundus for the extra weapon damage. You can also do the Steed Mundus for a little bit extra health recovery. That'll be nice. Our TM Takeaway Broth is a really good food to run on this build. That's because you get the usual stats for Bone Pirate, a little bit more actually, a little bit more health and stamina recovery, and you do get the health recovery added on top of that as well. So it's really good. For the potions here, I did mention Tri-Potions is going to be the best option. And then let's talk about race for a minute. So I really like Nord for a Stam DK, especially on a medium armor setup. And that's mostly because of this passive right here. The Rugged passive gives you about 4k extra physical and spell resistance before your buffs. This is really nice because you can run a medium armor setup and still feel very tanky, almost like a heavy armor setup. You still get all those really nice medium armor passives like the cost reduction, the extra weapon damage, all that good stuff. So my favorite, probably the Nord. You also get this ultimate gen, which is really nice for a Stam DK. More leaps is always good. A couple other really good options though would be like a Red Guard or Imperial. All right, let's jump into the gear next. So starting off with our first 5-piece set, I've chosen the Deadly Strike set for this build. What it does, if you're not familiar, you get a nice set of stats here. You've got weapon damage on the 2-piece, weapon critical on the 3-piece, another weapon damage on the 4-piece, and for the 5-piece bonus, you get increased damage over time by 14%, and that's basically all the damage over time that we do as a Stamina Dragonknight. So physical, bleeds, and poison damage, everything is going to get buffed on this build by 14%. I've also used this setup on a Stamina Templar build, and it's pretty good on Stamina Templar, but I think probably the ideal setup for this is going to be Stamina Dragonknight, because we have those extra dot effects like Venom Claw. So not only is it going to buff your Rending Slash, which is physical damage, but you also get the nice buff to poison dots as well. So I really like this on the Stam DK. It's super easy set to get too. You can just buy this from the AP merchant in Cyrodiil. And what I recommend is getting it in weapons, because you'll just get tons of weapons, and then also getting jewelry to run that as well. Jewelry does drop fairly common from those boxes, so it should be really easy to get. So for the weapons here that I'm going with, I do recommend at least one dagger. One dagger is going to get you the extra passive critical bonus. You can run double daggers, but I'm actually using one dagger and one axe. I like the extra chance to proc another dot, which is the axe bleed. So kind of go with your preference there. Double dagger or dagger axe is kind of what I would prefer. For the traits here, you definitely still want a Nirnhoned main hand trait. That's going to give you the most weapon damage as possible. Offhand is kind of up to you. I like precise. Extra bit of weapon critical is pretty nice. Also, maybe a sharpened trait would be decent here. Whatever you like there. I'm not running infused here because I am using poisons. If you're not familiar, the dual wield enchants did get a nerf. Pretty sizable nerf this patch. So I went away from dual wield enchants and I'm instead using poisons on my front dual wield bar. Which makes sense because our poison here, the tooltip, is huge. On that poison damage because that's getting buffed by Deadly Strike as well. So that's a nice combo there. The dual wield with the double dot health poisons. That's what those look like right there. And then I am using a infused battle axe on the back bar. That's giving me that nice extra weapon damage from our Berserker enchant. You can proc that off a cooldown every 5 seconds to get your weapon damage as high as possible. And then, like I said, I recommend jewelry for the other 3 pieces there. So our next 5-piece set that we're looking at here is going to be Viper, which you probably guessed from the name of the build here. So what Viper does, it gives us weapon critical, max stamina, another weapon critical, keeping our weapon crit nice and high on the build. And then for the 5-piece here, we get a nice poison damage effect. Can occur every 4 seconds, and it lasts for 4 seconds, about 8k poison damage here on that dot. And you guessed it, it is buffed by Deadly Strike. So we're getting an even bigger tooltip on that proc as well. So this is basically kind of a proc set build. If you think about it that way, the stats aren't ultra high because we're getting a lot of damage from our Viper, from our double dot poisons. But yeah, I just thought this was a nice pair with kind of a dot focused setup. Pretty easy to get to. You get this from the Fungal Grotto dungeon, so it's pretty easy to farm. How I'm using that is a chest here. This is a medium set, by the way, so I've got my medium chest, impen, got my medium belt, and then your other body pieces can be medium. You can do hands, legs, and feet. I swapped one piece with the Deadly Strike set, so I'm using Deadly Boots, and then a Viper neck, but you can work that out however you want. So we are using medium, 5 medium on the body. There for the medium armor passives, obviously my traits are not too good. You want more impen, as much impen as possible. I'd recommend at least 5 impen, and then maybe 2 well-fitted. Let's go ahead and talk about the jewelry here. So you want robust on all of these because your stamina pool is not that huge, especially in battlegrounds where it'll be a little bit less. I prefer robust there. You could maybe sneak in like 1 infused somewhere, but definitely run as many robust as you need. And I have just a mix of enchants here. I've got 1 weapon damage, 1 stam recovery, and 1 stam reduce cost. So I felt like that was a nice balance. You could substitute the recovery or the reduce cost with an extra weapon damage. If you want to improve your weapon damage a little bit more, that probably would be okay. And then last but not least, let's talk about the monster set here. So a couple things that I like. First would be Troll King, and this is just your survivability set. So you get a nice bit of health recovery on top of already using Artaeum Takeaway Broth. This is going to really help you stay alive while you're in PvP. So I like using this set. I'm using 2 heavy pieces here just to get some extra health and some extra resistances. So I've got the heavy helmet, heavy shoulders there. Now another option that's nice, it's going to give you more stamina recovery, would be Blood Spawn. You can run heavy blood spawn or maybe like 1 heavy, 1 medium blood spawn for your monster set. That'll give you, like I said, the extra stamina recovery. Extra ult gen will also be nice. But for me, especially playing solo as I kind of do, I just like the extra health recovery. The survivability on Troll King is really nice. So one other addition to this setup, if you have access to the Master's Dual Wield, that would definitely work on this build. For that, what I would do is just change my weapons out, run Deadly on the body, and then run your back bar and jewelry as Viper. That means you'll at least get a Viper proc on the back bar every 4 or 5 seconds. When you do that infused Berserker enchant, you'll get a nice Viper proc, and then you can switch back to the front bar and use your Master's dual wield. So if you have access, I think that would also work, but it's definitely not necessary for the build. It works fine with just the basic Deadly and Viper combo. So let's jump into skills next, starting off with our front bar, which is our dual wield bar. We've got Rending Slashes. This does a nice bit of physical damage over time, obviously, so it is buffed by Deadly Strike. You also get a nice snare for 4 seconds, and it just does a good bit of damage. Low cost too, which is important on this build since we don't have super high stamina recovery. Next up, Steel Tornado. This is just really reserved for execute damage. If you have a target that's getting pretty low, like 20% health, that's when you want to start using Steel Tornado, not before, because you're going to waste a lot of stamina. Now this is getting changed most likely in the Elsewhere chapter, but I believe one of the morphs will still have the execute. You'll just won't have quite as much range. I don't think it's going to be a huge deal. I probably will still use that morph for the extra execute damage. You'll just have to be more on top of a target. But that's really, I don't think it's a big deal. I think it'll work out just fine. The main thing here is just to watch out for the cost and make sure you're reserving this for a really low health target. I'm using Expert Hunter next on the front bar. This is kind of like a flex spot. I'm using this mainly for the passive weapon critical. You get that passive major savagery buff. That's 10% weapon crit, which is really nice. It lets me run tripots, which I think is important for not only the stamina sustain of the build, but also magicka sustain. Tri-potions are really good. And the fact that I have the savagery here helps a lot with that. Now you can flex this with other things. You could use the Venom Breath here skill if you want that major fracture debuff. That would also be a dot, which is going to be buffed by Deadly Strike. So that's another nice option, especially for a more coordinated group play where you need access to that major fracture. That's going to be nice there. You can also run Flames of Oblivion. Flames of Oblivion gives you a nice bit of damage pressure. I don't believe it's buffed by Deadly Strike. I could be wrong. But Flames of Oblivion would be nice here. You'll still get the weapon critical. My only problem with that skill is it uses magicka, and I am using Fossilize, which is pretty magicka intensive, so I didn't feel like I had enough magicka to use Flames of Oblivion. So I just like the passive here, Expert Hunter. It's really easy, really simple for your front bar. You also get the nice stealth reveal for 5 seconds, which is great when you're fighting Nightblades. So Venomous Claw, this is another damage over time effect. Very low cost here. You can see 600 stamina cost is like nothing at all on this build. It does really nice damage over time. Again, this is getting buffed by Deadly Strike, which makes a lot of sense on a stamina DK build. So you're getting a nice bit of damage on this. It does ramp up over time. It used to be that you could kind of spam this and get a very good spammable. I'm not going to recommend doing that anymore. That is going to be changed in the Elsewhere chapter. So right now you just want to apply it first and then let it tick for its full duration because it does increase in damage over time. Next up, we've got Quick Cloak, and a couple reasons why I like this skill. Number one, I'm not using a gap closer, running dual wield on the front bar. So this gives me a bit of speed here. Major Expedition for 4 seconds is usually enough to kind of close the distance between the target and then hit them with my claw, which is going to snare them. Also, Rending Slashes snares them. So I find that 4 seconds is usually enough. I can also use it maybe twice if I really need to travel a far distance. But then the other really nice thing about this skill, why I really recommend it on a dual wield, especially medium armor setup, is you get Major Evasion. So Major Evasion makes you really, really tanky in PvP. You get that extra 25% damage reduction from AoE attacks, which is huge. It's huge. It really makes a big difference. So make sure you have that active 100% of the time. It does last 15 seconds, which is a bit of a short duration. But you need to keep it up as much as possible for that passive AoE reduction. So our ultimate here obviously is Take Flight. Now you could use Dawnbreaker of Smiting here because Dawnbreaker is technically, it has that dot component, so you will get a buff on Dawnbreaker by using Deadly Strike, but I just love Leap too much. You gotta use it, right? I mean, it's similar damage for the burst. It's lower cost. And you get the gap close, which is really nice for opening You can basically jump across the map into a group of enemies. This is getting buffed as well. In the Elsewhere chapter, you're getting a bigger radius. I think it's going to be like 8 meters or something ridiculous. So yeah, I still recommend Leap for your front bar ultimate. That's what we're going to be using the majority of the time. All right, back bar now. I am using Fossilize on the build just because I think it synergizes really well with a damage over time setup. You can apply your dots and your bleeds on your front bar, your Venomous Claw, your Rending Slashes. You'll probably get your poisons to proc, and then you can hit them with a Fossilize, and that really just gives more time for your dots to kind of ramp up and do more and more damage, and then switch back to your front bar and either start executing with a Steel Tornado, or you can pop them with a Leap, something like that, and it's just really effective. It's good for group play too, group synergy, just helping out your group mates. If they have somebody harassing them, just hit that enemy with a Fossilize and kind of get them off your back. This skill is nice. It's nice on the Stam DK because the cost is not huge. It's only 2,700 Magicka. We can get a few of these off when we need it. So yeah, very helpful. Definitely recommend it. Next up, Reflective Plate. This is our snare immunity and immunity to immobilizations for 2 seconds. Really helpful, and obviously reflecting those projectiles. Now, it is getting changed in the Elsewhere chapter. It's going to be 50% damage reduction instead of the 100% reflect. People have mixed thoughts on that. I think it's going to be okay overall. Remember, this will drop as soon as you get hit by 4 projectiles, so this could drop in like a second. But with the Elsewhere chapter, it's going to be up for the complete 6 seconds. So that's just something to keep in mind. But we'll see how that goes. I definitely recommend still using it right now. It's a great skill. Resolving Vigor is just our heal over time. This helps us to stay alive, basically. So just use this as soon as you start taking damage. Make sure you have that heal over time active. Don't spam it, though, because it's a 5-second heal. Volatile Armor is our armor buff. Make sure you keep this up every 20 seconds. It gives you that nice major resolve and major ward buffs. It does send out a spray of spikes too, so it can be used for revealing Night Blades and things like that. But definitely make sure you keep that up every 20 seconds, because that definitely makes you a lot tankier on this build. And then Rally, you get to use Rally on the Stam DK, which is really nice because we do have that snare and immobilization removal from wings. So that means you can use Rally instead of Forward Momentum, which is really great. You get the extra heal. Basically, the longer you let this run, the bigger the heal will be. So that's really nice for just a clutch burst heal when you need it. Definitely recommend that. Make sure you keep the buff active as well. That's our Major Brutality, gives us 20% extra weapon damage overall. And then for the back bar here, I still like Corrosive Armor. This just gives us tons and tons of damage mitigation. You can see it limits the incoming damage to 3% of your max health. You also create this AoE poison, and while active, all of your attacks ignore physical resistance. Some people forget about that. That means all of your damaging bleeds, your dots, all those are going to ramp up huge. Huge. So if you have enough ultimate to use this, it is kind of costly. It is 200 ultimate. Make sure you've applied your dots first, your Venom Claw, your Rending Slash, get your poison going, and then hit Corrosive Armor because it's going to ramp up all of that damage 100%. It's really amazing once you activate that ultimate. If you have enough ultimate for it, you can pretty much kill anything with it. All right, let's take a quick look at champion points. Haven't changed the champion points much at all because we're still at 810 as the max. Keep in mind too, this build is mostly set up for Battlegrounds. That's where things like Dots and Viper are really gonna be strongest. But this is what I would recommend. If you wanna take this into a CP campaign, something like this would be pretty decent. So 31 into Warlord, 33 Sprinter, got 49 into Tenacity, 32 Arcanist, 64 into Mooncalf, 37 into Healthy. That's if you're using Troll King. If not, you can spread those out a little bit more. 23 into Tumbling. In the blue tree, we've got 27 Blessed, 35 Physical Weapon Expert, 72 Master Arms for our leaps. Thaumaturge 28, Precise Strikes 20, Piercing 32, Mighty 56. In the red tree, we've got 66 into Ironclad, 45 into Resistant, 49 into Hardy, 56 Elemental Defender, 31 into Thick-Skinned, and then 23 into Quick Recovery. All right, everybody, that's going to wrap it up for the Deadly Viper Stamina DK PvP build. Hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, as always, please crush that like button for me. It really does help me out. If you have any questions on the build or just comments in general, go ahead and leave those down below. I always check those. If you're not a subscriber yet to the channel, hey, thanks for checking me out. Definitely hit that subscribe button if you want to see more build videos in the future, because I do those all the time on this channel. I've actually got a Stamina Warden build coming out next for PvP, so make sure you got your notifications ticked on so you see that as soon as it comes out. But until then, I will see you guys around in the next video. Thanks.